Welcome to the premiere edition of Keep It in Tune. I'm your host, Kevin Fell. You know who you are. Let's get started. Alright, in this episode we're going to try to answer the question, how often should I have my piano tuned and serviced? Because we all know if the piano's out of tune, or if the keys stick, or you have other action problems, it just doesn't feel right, you're just not going to want to play, and I can't let that happen. Remember, just like your car, your piano needs regular tune-ups as well. Now it's true your piano may not leave you stranded by the side of the road if you neglect it for a while. Take it from me, there's nothing worse than being stranded without a piano to play. And if you neglect your piano, just like your car, chances are you will be paying for costly repairs in the future. So this will be part one of a two-part series. In part one, we'll deal with the tuning aspect. In part two, we'll deal with the action regulation and other internal parts of the piano. For now, let's get tuning. When it comes to the piano, there are a lot of things that can affect the tuning and tuning stability. We're going to be looking at the three main things that can affect the tuning of the piano once you have it in your house. First, we've got the steel strings, we've got the tuning pins, and the pin block that holds the piano wire at tension, and the soundboard itself. We'll be assuming that the cast iron plate and the piano rim are well constructed and in sound condition and are able to withstand the tensions that will be exerted upon them by the piano strings. Alright, strings of the piano made of steel. In the bass section, they are generally the same steel core wrapped with a copper winding to add more mass to the strings. It is especially drawn and treated steel wire specifically for musical applications. It has been known to be used for other nefarious type purposes. Also been known for use as picture hanging and other such home applications. We will be sticking to the piano applications for now. Average piano has about 220 strings. Each one of these strings, once it's up to pitch, can be from 150 pounds of tension up to 300 pounds of tension. So once you get all 220 some odd strings strung and up to pitch, this piano case has to withstand about 20 tons of tension pulling on itself. So that's why I said the case and the cast iron plate have to be sound. The steel wire used for the strings in the piano is quite elastic, and we'll want to do some stretching and settling in when first put on a piano and brought to pitch. This will cause quite a bit of tuning problems on a new piano or a newly restrung piano. Alright, on the starting end of the string is the tuning pin. The string will wrap around the tuning pin, and then the tuning pin subsequently is driven into the pin block. The only thing holding this tuning pin into the block is basically friction. So this needs to be a nice tight fit, or once the string is up to tension, it will just come unraveled here in the pin block. The pin block is generally made up of several laminations of a dense hardwood, most commonly maple. It is attached inside of the piano case and also screwed to the cast iron plate, so that basically it will become one with the piano case and the plate, making it less susceptible to movements. If this is not a nice tight fit into the case and the cast iron plate, and if it's allowed to move forward or rock at different tensions, your piano will never be able to be tuned properly and never stay in tune. Being made of wood, the pin block is subject to all things that affect wood: humidity, wear, and deterioration. And as I stated earlier, the only thing holding the tuning pins into the block is friction. Without this friction, the tuning pins will not be able to stay in place and withstand the great amount of tension placed on them by these strings. After 50 years or so of tuning, those holes are probably getting pretty wore out and are not holding tune anymore, and it's probably time for a new pin block. The soundboard is one of, if not the most important part of the piano. Now there are a lot of very important parts of the piano, but without the soundboard, you're just not going to hear very much. The soundboard is basically the main emitter of sound, thus the name soundboard. Basically the strings from the pinblock stretch across and terminate the speaking length of the string at the bridge. The bridge then transfers the energy from the string into the soundboard, and the soundboard acts like a giant speaker, moving a large volume of air, allowing us to hear the piano. The soundboard, like the pinblock and being a large wooden panel, is subject to all things that affect wood. Humidity probably being the #1 enemy of the soundboard. The piano in general likes a relative humidity of about 42%. But more importantly is a constant, even humidity. We don't want large fluctuations in the relative humidity. The soundboard is crowned, which means it's slightly raised up in the middle. The main reason is to support and counteract the down-bearing force of the strings as they pass over the bridge. On an average piano about this size, we're looking at about 1,000 pounds of force pushing down on the soundboard when the strings are all up to pitch. And when the humidity swings one way or the other, it changes where the soundboard is sitting. If the humidity is high, the soundboard swells and rises. When that happens, it raises the tension on the strings, thus raising the pitch. If the humidity drops and gets really dry, the soundboard wood will shrink and the soundboard will fall, lowering the tension of the strings, and the pitch will fall flat. If the piano is in an environment with lots of changes and fluctuations in the humidity levels, you will have several problems. One, with the dimensional changes of the wood, you run the risk of the glue joints coming loose in the soundboard. Two, you run the risk of splits and cracks forming in the soundboard. Those are issues we're going to get into in another episode, because this episode is all about the tuning and tuning stability, which your piano never will stay in tune if it is in an environment with large humidity fluctuations. Alright, now that we got a basic understanding of the parts of the piano and how they might affect the tuning stability, I want to take a minute and talk about pitch. The modern piano is designed to be tuned to A440, concert pitch. This is the pitch that will give you the best tone and performance from the piano. Also, this is the pitch that any other instruments that you might be playing along with will most likely be tuned to. It won't take them long to figure out that it's the piano that's out of tune. Keeping the piano at A440 is important for several reasons, two of which I just mentioned. To provide the best tone and performance of the piano, as well as being able to play with other musicians. It is also important that you do not develop an incorrect sense of pitch, as any proper ear training regimen would require the piano to be at A440. Also, maintaining the piano at pitch and not allowing it to deviate too far between tunings helps to create tuning stability in the piano, as each tuning will not drastically be changing the tensions of the strings in the piano. If the piano is deviated too far from A440, it will more than likely require more than one tuning to return the piano to the proper pitch and have it be stable there, as even a moderate amount of pitch change will create a significant change in the tensions on the strings and the piano structure. When the tensions of the string change, it changes the load on that part of the piano, thus causing a change in the distribution of the load across the entire piano structure. This will cause previously tuned notes to go out of tune. So depending on how far the piano has deviated from A440, it may take several tunings to get the notes to be back at the proper pitch and want to be able to stay there. This may sound silly, but the only way to really achieve a fine, accurate tuning on a piano is if the piano is already close to its proper pitch, as then only small changes in the tensions of the strings will be needed, and these small changes will not disturb any previously tuned notes. Alrighty, how often should I have my piano tuned? Okay. The answer is, drumroll please, as often as it takes to keep your piano from deviating too far from A4/4. Now, I know that wasn't the answer you were really wanting. You wanted a good solid number. But honestly, what you need to assess is your needs, the climate the piano is sitting in, and the age and condition of the piano. Once those things have been assessed, then we can get a clear idea on what that piano will need and how often it will need to be tuned. For those of you who need a good solid number to go on, here's a recommendation from most piano manufacturers. For a new piano, they recommend 3 to 4 times for the first year as the strings stretch and wood parts settle. After that, twice a year should be sufficient for any piano in a climate-controlled environment and in relatively good condition. And think about this. There are recording studios here in Nashville that sometimes have their pianos tuned 3 to 4 times a week. There you go. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. I've had fun making it. Hopefully you've learned something and had a little fun along the way. Remember to go to the website, kevinfeldpiano.com. Feel free to email me with any questions you might have at kevin@kevinfeldpiano.com. Remember to stay tuned for part 2 of this series, when we'll delve into the piano action and other internal parts of the piano. For now, I'm Kevin Feld, reminding you, keep it in tune. I'm getting the sunburn.